Have you ever found yourself nodding along to yet another generic confidence tip, thinking this sounds great, only to find yourself stuck in the same patterns a week later? If you're an introvert, you know the drill. Stand tall, make eye contact, speak up more, advice that feels like it's designed for someone else entirely. Traditional confidence advice often leaves introverts feeling like they need to become extroverts to succeed. It's exhausting, unsustainable, and frankly, misses the point entirely. What if I told you there's another way? A path to confidence that doesn't require you to become someone you're not? Welcome to the concept of dark confidence. Not dark as in negative, but dark as in deep, powerful, and mysterious. This isn't about temporary fixes or surface-level changes. It's about tapping into the natural strengths you already possess as an introvert and transforming them into your greatest assets. As a fellow introvert, I understand the unique challenges we face. The constant pressure to speak up more in meetings. The anxiety before social events. The frustration of having brilliant ideas but struggling to voice them. I've been there, silently knowing the answer, but watching as someone else gets the credit for speaking up first. But here's what most people don't understand about us. Introversion isn't a weakness to overcome. It's a powerful foundation for a different kind of confidence. While others are busy trying to be the loudest in a room, we're observing, analyzing, and understanding on a deeper level. We see patterns others miss. We form connections that others overlook. We process information with a depth that gives us unique insights. The problem isn't that we lack confidence. It's that we've been taught to measure confidence by extroverted standards. What if I told you that some of the world's most influential and magnetic personalities are actually introverts who've mastered this secret form of confidence? From tech visionaries to cultural icons, many have discovered how to leverage their introverted nature rather than fight against it. The traditional advice fails us because it doesn't stick. You might force yourself to be more outgoing at an event, only to feel completely drained afterward. You might speak up more in a meeting, only to revert to silence when the pressure mounts. These approaches treat the symptoms without addressing the root cause. Dark confidence is different. It's not about changing who you are. It's about embracing your true nature and learning how to wield it effectively. It's about building confidence from the inside out in a way that feels authentic and sustainable for your introverted personality. Here's what makes this approach different. We're not going to focus on quick fixes or surface-level tricks. We're going for a permanent transformation by addressing the core of how you see yourself and interact with the world. By the end of our journey together, you'll understand why being reserved isn't a liability, but a secret weapon. You'll learn why your thoughtful nature gives you an edge in both personal and professional settings. You'll discover how to leverage your natural tendencies to create a magnetic presence that draws others to you without draining your energy. This isn't about becoming more extroverted. It's about becoming more powerfully yourself. Think about it this way. True confidence isn't thinking, I'm the coolest person in this room and everyone will like me. That's actually cockiness, and it's rooted in seeking external validation. Genuine confidence is simply not caring whether people like you or not. It's doing what you want to do, the way you want to do it, without seeking approval. There's a profound difference between walking like a king and walking like you don't care who the king is. One depends on others recognizing your status. The other comes entirely from within. As introverts, we have a unique advantage in building this kind of authentic confidence. We're already comfortable with our inner worlds. We already value substance over showmanship. We're already selective about where we invest our energy. The journey to dark confidence starts with recognizing that the image of an introverted personality you have in your mind is likely incorrect. Society has taught us that being introverted means being shy, submissive, or lacking confidence. But that's simply not true. True introversion is about where you draw your energy from, not how capable you are of interacting with the world. It's about having a rich inner life, being thoughtful before you speak, and preferring meaningful connections over casual ones. In the coming sections, we'll explore powerful psychological concepts like confidence spillover, which explains how mastery in one area of your life can dramatically boost your confidence in seemingly unrelated areas. We'll discover the magnetic effect of being unapologetically yourself rather than trying to mimic others. We'll learn techniques for managing those intrusive thoughts that keep you silent when you should speak up. And we'll explore how to embrace your naturally reserved and mysterious nature as a strength rather than a weakness. Are you ready to unlock the true power of your introverted nature? Let's begin. Now, let's start by addressing the elephant in the room: the pervasive misconceptions about what it means to be an introvert. For too long, introversion has been conflated with shyness, social anxiety, or a lack of confidence. These stereotypes have created a distorted image that many introverts internalize, believing there's something inherently wrong with their natural disposition. But here's the truth: introversion is not a flaw to be fixed or an obstacle to overcome. It's simply a different way of interacting with the world, with its own unique strengths and advantages. The classic definition of introversion centers around energy flow. Introverts recharge through solitude, while extroverts gain energy from social interaction. But this simplified explanation barely scratches the surface of the introvert experience. It fails to capture the rich inner world and distinctive strengths that introverts bring to the table. One of the most remarkable abilities of introverts is deep analysis. While others might skim the surface of ideas and conversations, introverts naturally dive deeper. We process information thoroughly, considering multiple perspectives and implications before forming conclusions. This depth of thought leads to insights that others might miss entirely. Think about the last time you were in a group discussion where everyone was quickly bouncing ideas around, while others were racing to contribute. You were likely analyzing each statement, finding connections, and forming a more comprehensive understanding of the topic. This isn't slowness, it's thoroughness. It's not hesitation, it's thoughtful consideration. This analytical strength extends beyond intellectual matters to emotional intelligence as well. Introverts often possess an exceptional ability to read between the lines and understand the emotional undercurrents in any situation. We pick up on subtle shifts in tone, facial expressions, and body language that others might overlook. Remember that moment when you sensed something was off with a friend, even though they insisted everything was fine? Or when you detected underlying tensions in a meeting that no one else seemed to notice? That's your introverted emotional intelligence at work. A powerful ability to sense and understand emotions that aren't being explicitly expressed. Observation is another natural strength of introverts. While others are busy talking or waiting for their turn to speak, we're watching, listening, and absorbing everything around us. This observational prowess gives us access to information and insights that more vocal participants might miss. Think of it as having a different kind of situational awareness. Where extroverts might control the room through their energy and expressiveness, introverts are often the ones who truly understand the room, the dynamics, the unspoken alliances, the hidden motivations. These intrinsic strengths, deep analysis, emotional intelligence, and keen observation, aren't just random traits. They form a powerful foundation for authentic confidence that's uniquely available to introverts. Consider how these abilities translate into real-world advantages. The capacity for deep analysis leads to more thoughtful decisions and creative solutions. Emotional intelligence facilitates stronger relationships and more effective communication. Observational skills provide valuable information and insights that others miss entirely. Is it any wonder that many of history's greatest thinkers, innovators, and leaders have been introverts? From Einstein to Lincoln, from Gandhi to Rosa Parks, quiet strength has changed the world time and again. But society rarely celebrates these introverted strengths. Instead, from an early age, we're taught to value the extroverted ideal, to speak up, stand out, and take charge. Schools reward the quickest hand raised, not necessarily the most thoughtful answer. Workplaces promote those who are most vocal in meetings, not always those with the deepest insights. This cultural bias leads many introverts to view their natural tendencies as liabilities rather than assets. We try to suppress our introverted qualities and force ourselves to act more extroverted, often at great personal cost. The exhaustion you feel after trying to be on all day isn't weakness. It's the natural consequence of working against your authentic nature. What if, instead of fighting against your introversion, you embraced it as the foundation of your unique brand of confidence? What if you recognize that your quiet nature isn't something to overcome, but something to harness and leverage? True confidence for an introvert looks different than it does for an extrovert. It's not about commanding attention through volume or charisma. It's about knowing your worth without needing to broadcast it. It's about speaking with precision and impact when you choose to speak. It's about having the courage to remain thoughtful in a world that rewards impulsiveness. By reframing introversion as a source of strength rather than a limitation, you open the door to a kind of confidence that's both powerful and sustainable. You stop measuring yourself against extroverted standards and start recognizing the unique value you bring precisely because of your introverted nature. In the next section, we'll explore what true confidence actually means and how it differs from the superficial versions we're often sold. But for now, I want you to begin shifting your perspective on your introverted nature, not as a cross to bear, but as a gift to develop. Let's get something clear right from the start. Most of what passes for confidence in our society isn't confidence at all. It's a performance designed to convince others, and often ourselves, that we're worthy of attention and respect. But true confidence runs deeper than any performance could ever reach. To understand what real confidence looks like, we first need to distinguish it from its most common counterfeit, cockiness. Cockiness is thinking, I am the coolest, most attractive, and most confident person in this room. I know everyone will like me. It's a stance that appears confident on the surface, but actually reveals a profound insecurity underneath. The cocky person's sense of worth depends entirely on external validation, on being seen, heard, and approved of by others. This external validation becomes a hunger that can never be fully satisfied. Why? Because it puts your value in the hands of others, leaving you vulnerable to every shift in opinion, every criticism, every moment when someone else takes center stage. The cocky person might seem confident when they're receiving praise, but watch how quickly that facade crumbles when the validation stops. True confidence, by contrast, is not caring whether people like you or not. It's doing what you want to do, the way you want to do it, regardless of external approval. This doesn't mean being inconsiderate or disrespectful of others. Quite the opposite. It means being so secure in your own worth that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Think about the difference between these two mindsets. Walk like a king versus walk like you don't care who is the king. The first is rooted in status and recognition, in being seen as important by others. The second comes from within, from knowing your own worth regardless of title or position. This distinction is crucial for introverts because we often feel pressure to perform confidence in ways that don't align with our natural strengths. We're told to speak up more, to network extensively, to command attention, all strategies that might work for extroverts but often leave us feeling drained and inauthentic. But what if true confidence has nothing to do with volume or visibility? What if it's actually about self-alignment, about knowing who you are and being comfortable in that knowledge? Consider this scenario. A room full of people are engaged in rapid-fire conversation, each trying to outdo the other with clever remarks and impressive stories. In the corner sits someone quiet, observing more than participating. When they do speak, everyone listens because their words carry weight, not because they're loud, but because they're thoughtful. Which person displays true confidence? From an extroverted perspective, it might seem like the vocal participants. But look closer, and you'll often find anxiety driving their performance, the need to be seen, to be validated, to maintain their status in the group. The quiet observer, meanwhile, isn't seeking validation. They're comfortable in their own skin, secure enough to listen and observe without feeling compelled to prove their worth through constant verbal contribution. This internally sourced confidence is particularly accessible to introverts who are already accustomed to rich inner lives. We don't need to learn how to look inward. We do it naturally. What we need is to recognize the value in this tendency and harness it as a source of strength rather than viewing it as a liability. True confidence comes from self-knowledge and self-acceptance. It's about understanding your strengths and weaknesses without exaggerating either. It's about setting your own standards rather than measuring yourself against others. It's about pursuing what matters to you, regardless of whether it impresses anyone else. For introverts, this means embracing your preference for depth over breadth, for quality over quantity, for thoughtfulness over impulsiveness. It means recognizing that your quietness isn't a flaw. It's a space where you gather your strength and formulate insights that others might miss in their rush to speak. This kind of confidence is unshakable because it doesn't depend on external circumstances. It doesn't evaporate when you're not receiving attention or praise. It doesn't require constant maintenance through social performance. It simply exists as a natural extension of knowing and accepting yourself. What's particularly powerful about this internally sourced confidence is that, ironically, it often draws others to you more effectively than any attempt to impress them could. People are naturally attracted to authenticity in a world full of performance. They're drawn to those who seem comfortable in their own skin, who don't need validation, who bring a centered presence to every interaction. This is the paradox of true confidence. The less you need others' approval, the more likely you are to receive it. Not because you're trying to impress, but because there's something compelling about someone who knows their own worth. For introverts, the path to this kind of confidence isn't about becoming more extroverted. It's about fully embracing and developing your introverted strengths, about recognizing the unique value you bring precisely because of your quiet nature. It's about redefining confidence on your own terms, rather than accepting the extroverted standard imposed by society. In the following sections, we'll explore specific strategies for building this kind of authentic confidence, starting with the powerful concept of confidence spillover, which explains how mastery in one area can transform your confidence across your entire life. But for now, I want you to begin questioning the performance-based definition of confidence you've been sold, and start considering what true confidence might look like for you as an introvert. Now that we understand what true confidence looks like for introverts, let's explore one of the most powerful psychological mechanisms for building it: confidence spillover. This fascinating phenomenon explains how developing confidence in one area of your life can naturally transfer to other seemingly unrelated domains. Confidence spillover works because our brain doesn't always compartmentalize our experiences. When you prove to yourself that you can master a challenge in one arena, your self-perception shifts at a fundamental level. You begin to see yourself as someone who can overcome obstacles and achieve success, regardless of the specific context. Think of confidence as water flowing between connected vessels. Raise the level in one container, and the others naturally rise too. This is why confidence spillover is particularly valuable for introverts. It allows you to build confidence in areas that align with your natural strengths, then carry that confidence into situations that might otherwise feel intimidating. Let's consider a practical example. Imagine you're an introvert who enjoys playing tennis. Initially, you might feel nervous about competing, worried about your performance or how others perceive you. But as you practice consistently and see yourself improving, something interesting happens. You start winning matches and developing genuine skill. With each victory, your self-perception shifts. You begin to see yourself as capable and competent. Here's where the magic of spillover occurs. This newfound confidence doesn't remain confined to the tennis court. You begin to notice changes in how you approach social situations. At a gathering that would have previously filled you with anxiety, you now feel more at ease. You approach conversations with a new sense of assurance, knowing that you've proven to yourself that you can succeed in challenging situations. Your body language becomes more open and engaging. You make better eye contact, not because you're forcing yourself to follow some external advice, but because you genuinely feel more comfortable in your own skin. People notice this authentic shift in your demeanor and respond positively, further reinforcing your confidence in a virtuous cycle. This example highlights why confidence spillover is so powerful. It builds authentic confidence from the inside out. You're not pretending to be confident. You're genuinely becoming more confident through demonstrated competence in areas that matter to you. The beauty of this approach is that you can deliberately harness it by identifying and developing your natural strengths. Every introvert has domains where their natural tendencies are advantages rather than limitations. By intentionally cultivating these areas, you create wellsprings of genuine confidence that overflow into all aspects of your life. So how do you identify these potential confidence sources? Start by reflecting on activities where you lose track of time, what psychologists call a flow state. These are usually pursuits where your introverted qualities become strengths rather than hindrances. It might be writing, coding, playing an instrument, strategic gaming, artistic creation, or any number of activities that reward deep focus and thoughtful engagement. Another approach is to consider moments where you felt most alive or accomplished. What were you doing? What skills were you using? Often, these peak experiences point toward your natural strengths, areas where you can develop mastery and, consequently, authentic confidence. Once you've identified these potential confidence sources, commit to deliberate practice. Set specific, measurable goals that stretch your abilities without overwhelming you. Track your progress, celebrate your successes, and learn from setbacks. With each milestone you reach, consciously notice how your accomplishment affects your self-perception. The key is to focus on developing genuine competence rather than simply seeking validation. External praise feels good momentarily, but real confidence comes from knowing that you've genuinely mastered a skill or overcome a challenge. This internally validated confidence is far more resilient than any confidence built on others' opinions. As your confidence grows in your chosen area, pay attention to how it begins to manifest in other domains. You might notice yourself speaking up more in meetings, not because you're forcing yourself to be more extroverted, but because you genuinely feel more secure in your perspectives. You might find yourself more comfortable in social situations, not because you become more outgoing, but because you're less concerned with others' judgments. This is the essence of dark confidence for introverts, building from your natural strengths rather than trying to force yourself into an extroverted mold. By understanding and harnessing confidence spillover, you create sustainable confidence that feels authentic to your introverted nature. In the next section, we'll explore another core principle of dark confidence: the power of authentic self-expression. As we'll see, being unapologetically yourself isn't just easier than pretending to be someone else. It's actually far more effective at creating the kind of presence that draws others to you naturally. Having explored how confidence can spill over from one area of your life to others, let's turn to an equally powerful principle: authentic self-expression. This is where many traditional confidence approaches fail introverts. They focus on changing who you are rather than embracing and expressing your true self. Nothing is more attractive, influential, or confidence-building than being unapologetically yourself. This isn't just a feel-good platitude. It's a psychological reality with profound implications for how you show up in the world. When you present yourself authentically, you tap into a natural authority that no amount of performance or pretense can match. Think about the people who have most impressed you in your life. The individuals whose presence seemed to fill a room without dominating it. The quiet leaders whose words carried weight not because they were loud, but because they were genuine. Chances are, these people weren't trying to be someone else. They were fully embodying who they actually are. This principle is especially liberating for introverts, who often feel pressure to adopt more extroverted behaviors to be considered confident. But here's the truth. Faking extroversion is not only exhausting, it's profoundly ineffective in the long run. Consider what happens when you try to be more extroverted than you naturally are. At a party, you might force yourself to circulate widely, engage in small talk with everyone, and project an outgoing persona. For a few hours, you might even pull it off convincingly. But by the end of the night, you feel completely drained, like you've run an emotional marathon. This depletion isn't a sign of failure. It's your authentic self rebelling against the mask you're wearing. Moreover, this performance is rarely as convincing as you might think. People are remarkably attuned to authenticity. They can sense when someone is performing rather than being genuine. There's an uncanny valley effect in human interaction. Behavior that's slightly off from what's natural creates a subtle sense of unease in those around you. By contrast, when you embrace your introverted nature and interact in ways that feel natural to you, something remarkable happens. Rather than depleting your energy, authentic interaction often preserves or even enhances it. You might choose to have deeper, one-on-one conversations rather than trying to mingle with everyone. You might listen more than you speak, asking thoughtful questions that show genuine interest. You might take occasional breaks to recharge in a quiet corner before re-engaging. This genuine approach not only feels better for you, it actually leaves a more powerful impression on others. People are drawn to authenticity because it's increasingly rare in a world where so many are performing versions of themselves for social media or professional advancement. When someone encounters genuine self-expression, it creates a refreshing sense of trust and connection. The question then becomes, how do you make your introverted personality magnetic through authentic self-expression? The answer lies not in adding anything to yourself, but in removing the barriers to your natural expression. Start by giving yourself permission to be introverted. This sounds simple, but many of us have internalized the message that our natural tendencies are somehow wrong or inadequate. Consciously recognize that your preference for deeper connections, thoughtful communication, and periods of solitude are valid and valuable ways of being. Next, identify the situations where you most often feel pressured to be someone you're not. Is it networking events, team meetings, social gatherings? For each context, consider what authentic self-expression might look like. Rather than forcing yourself to circulate widely at a networking event, perhaps you focus on having 3 meaningful conversations. Instead of pushing yourself to speak up constantly in meetings, maybe you prepare thoughtful points in advance and deliver them with quiet conviction. Remember that authenticity isn't about revealing everything about yourself indiscriminately. It's about ensuring that what you do express is genuine. You can be selectively open while still being true to yourself. In fact, this discernment about what to share and when is a natural strength of many introverts. As you begin expressing yourself more authentically, you'll likely notice that you attract different kinds of responses in relationships. Some people might be confused or put off by your genuine self-expression, particularly if they're used to more performative interactions. That's actually a positive sign. Not everyone is meant to connect with your authentic self, and that's perfectly fine. What matters is that the right people will be drawn to your genuine presence. These are the connections that will nurture rather than drain you, the relationships that will endure beyond superficial attraction. When you are unapologetically yourself, you create a natural filtering system that brings compatible people and opportunities into your life. This authentic approach to confidence is sustainable in a way that performance can never be. It doesn't require constant vigilance or endless energy to maintain. It simply requires the courage to be who you already are, to trust that your natural way of being is not just acceptable, but actually powerful in its own right. As we move to the next principle of dark confidence, we'll explore how to manage the intrusive thoughts that often hold introverts back from fully expressing themselves. But remember that the foundation of this entire approach is embracing rather than fighting your introverted nature. Your quiet strength is not a limitation to overcome. It's the very source of your most authentic and enduring confidence. One of the most significant barriers to confidence for introverts isn't external judgment. It's our own intrusive thoughts. That persistent inner voice that questions and doubts, that imagines worst-case scenarios and remembers past embarrassments in excruciating detail. If you're an introvert, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These intrusive thoughts are particularly challenging for introverts because of our tendency toward deep internal processing. The same capacity for reflection that gives us insight and understanding can also trap us in spirals of self-doubt when not properly managed. Let's examine a common scenario that most introverts have experienced. You're sitting in a classroom or meeting and you know the answer to a question that's been posed. You've done your homework, you're confident in your knowledge, and you have a valuable perspective to contribute. But as you consider raising your hand, a flood of intrusive thoughts invades your mind. What if I'm wrong? What if everyone laughs at me? What if I stumble over my words and sound stupid? What if the teacher/boss thinks I'm not smart? These doubts paralyze you, and before you know it, someone else has answered the question and the moment has passed. You're left with a familiar mixture of relief because you avoided potential embarrassment and regret because you know you had something worthwhile to contribute. This scenario illustrates how intrusive thoughts create a self-fulfilling prophecy. By preventing you from acting, they reinforce the belief that you're not confident or capable, which in turn strengthens the power of those thoughts the next time a similar situation arises. The impact of self-doubt extends far beyond classrooms. Think about social interactions, career opportunities, romantic possibilities, countless aspects of life where intrusive thoughts might hold you back. For instance, you might see someone you'd like to connect with, plan an entire conversation in your head, but never actually speak because thoughts like, what if they don't respond? Or what if they think I'm weird? Overwhelm you. Or consider professional settings. You might have a brilliant idea for a project, envision how it could be implemented, but never propose it because thoughts like, what if they reject it? Or what if I can't answer their questions? Stop you before you start. Over time, these missed opportunities accumulate, creating a pattern that can feel frustrating and isolating. You know you have value to offer, but intrusive thoughts consistently prevent you from sharing that value with the world. So how do you break this pattern? The key insight is this. You don't overcome intrusive thoughts by eliminating them. You overcome them by acting despite them. Most conventional advice suggests fighting negative thoughts by replacing them with positive ones. While this approach has merit, it often doesn't address the root issue for introverts. Our thoughts aren't necessarily negative. They're questions, considerations, and scenario planning that come naturally to our reflective minds. A more effective approach is to acknowledge these thoughts as a normal part of your introverted thinking process, but then choose to act anyway. This is what I call letting your intrusive thoughts spin, allowing them to exist without letting them dictate your behavior. Let's explore some practical strategies for implementing this approach. Start with small, manageable steps. If speaking up in a large group feels overwhelming, begin with contributions in smaller settings where the stakes feel lower. This could be during group projects, informal discussions, or in written formats where you have time to craft your thoughts. Each small success builds confidence for larger challenges. Use positive affirmations that acknowledge reality. Rather than trying to convince yourself, everyone will love what I say, try, I have something valuable to contribute, whether or not everyone agrees. This honest affirmation acknowledges the reality that not everyone will always respond positively to you, while still affirming your inherent worth. Practice consistently. Confidence, like any skill, improves with practice. Set small, specific goals for speaking up or taking action despite intrusive thoughts. For example, I'll contribute at least once in every meeting this week, or I'll introduce myself to one new person at the next event I attend. Track your progress to make the growth visible. Visualize success specifically. Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, vividly imagine what could go right. See yourself speaking clearly, others responding positively, and feeling satisfaction afterward. Make this visualization detailed and multi-sensory. What would you see, hear, and feel if things went well? This creates a competing mental scenario to counter catastrophic thinking. These strategies share a common thread. They're all forms of taking action despite doubt. The crucial insight here is that confidence doesn't come from silencing your intrusive thoughts. It comes from proving to yourself, through experience, that you can act effectively even when those thoughts are present. Your intrusive thoughts may always be with you to some degree. That's part of your introverted gift of deep processing and scenario planning. The difference is that with practice, they become background noise rather than commanding voices. You acknowledge them, but you don't obey them when they tell you to stay silent or hold back. Remember this powerful truth. The only way to find out what will happen when you speak up, reach out, or take a chance is to actually do it. Your intrusive thoughts offer predictions, but they're not prophecies. They're your mind's way of preparing for possibilities, not telling you definitive truths about the future. As you practice letting your intrusive thoughts spin while taking action anyway, you'll discover something remarkable. Many of the disasters you imagined never materialize, and even when challenges do arise, you're more capable of handling them than your doubts suggested. This experiential evidence gradually rewires your expectations, creating a positive cycle where action builds confidence, which enables more action. In the next section, we'll explore how to leverage another aspect of your introverted nature that's often misunderstood, your reserved and mysterious quality. As we'll see, what might be perceived as aloofness or shyness can actually become one of your most magnetic attributes when properly understood and expressed. Perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of introversion is the naturally reserved quality that many introverts possess. All too often, this reserve is misinterpreted as aloofness, shyness, or even arrogance by a society that prizes outgoing expressiveness. But what if this reserved nature is actually one of your greatest strengths? What if the mystery that surrounds you is not a barrier to connection, but a powerful form of attraction? For introverts, embracing your reserved and mysterious nature doesn't require any special effort. It's already a natural part of who you are. The key is to understand its power and leverage it intentionally rather than trying to suppress it in an effort to appear more outgoing. Let's begin by exploring the psychology behind why mystery creates intrigue. Human beings are naturally curious creatures with an inherent desire to solve puzzles and fill in gaps in their understanding. When everything about a person is immediately apparent, when they share every thought, feeling, and experience without discretion, there's no mystery to unravel, no deeper layers to discover. By contrast, someone who reveals themselves gradually, thoughtfully selecting what to share and when, creates a sense of depth and complexity that others find magnetically attractive. This isn't about being secretive or playing games. It's about understanding that significance is often proportional to scarcity. When your words and expressions are selective rather than constant, they carry more weight and meaning. Think about the characters in films, books, or real life who captivate attention despite, or because of, their quiet nature. They don't command attention through volume or constant presence. They draw others in through the quality of their presence when they do engage. They leave others wanting more rather than feeling overwhelmed or exhausted. This dynamic plays out in countless social and professional settings. Imagine a social gathering where most participants are engaged in rapid conversation, sharing opinions on every topic that arises. Among them sits someone more reserved, observing more than participating, but fully present and engaged. When this person does speak, everyone naturally turns to listen. Their words carry an implicit promise of significance simply because they are selectively offered. The same principle applies in professional contexts. In meetings where some team members feel compelled to comment on every point, the person who speaks only when they have something truly valuable to contribute often becomes the most influential voice in the room. Their silence creates space for their words to have impact when they do choose to share. This reserved quality creates a powerful form of social gravity. Instead of you working to gain others' attention, they become curious about you and naturally drawn into your orbit. But to harness this power effectively, you need to balance reserve with genuine engagement. Mystery without warmth can indeed come across as aloofness or indifference. Let's explore some practical applications for leveraging your reserved nature while maintaining connection. Focus on quality over quantity in your interactions. Rather than trying to engage with everyone at an event or contribute to every topic in a meeting, be selective. Choose conversations that genuinely interest you and contributions that add real value. This selectivity allows you to be fully present and engaged when you do participate, making those interactions more meaningful for everyone involved. Develop your skills as an active listener and observer. Your natural tendency to listen more than you speak is a tremendous asset when refined into active listening. Make eye contact, ask thoughtful follow-up questions, and demonstrate genuine interest in understanding others. People rarely forget how it feels to be truly heard and understood. It's one of the most powerful ways to create lasting positive impressions. Practice selective sharing. Being authentic doesn't mean sharing everything indiscriminately. Consider what parts of yourself to reveal in different contexts and relationships. This isn't about being secretive, but about creating appropriate boundaries and allowing relationships to develop at a natural pace. When you do share more personal thoughts or experiences, their rarity makes them more meaningful to the recipient. Develop powerful nonverbal communication. As an introvert, you likely already think carefully about your words. Apply that same thoughtfulness to your nonverbal communication. Maintain good posture, make deliberate eye contact, and use gestures sparingly but effectively. Your body language can communicate confidence and engagement even when you're not speaking, creating a presence that others notice and respect. The power of silence deserves special mention here. In a world where most people rush to fill conversational gaps, your comfort with silence becomes a unique strength. By resisting the urge to fill every pause, you create space for deeper thinking, more thoughtful responses, and a rhythm of conversation that feels less frantic and more meaningful. Consider how this plays out in professional settings. When someone who usually speaks less offers a perspective in a meeting, others naturally pay attention. Their words carry weight precisely because they aren't constantly talking. This reserved approach can make you appear more confident and knowledgeable than those who feel compelled to demonstrate their value through constant verbal contribution. The key insight here is that confidence doesn't always mean being the loudest or most visible person in the room. Sometimes the most confident person is the one who speaks less, but says more, who understands that their value doesn't need to be constantly proven or displayed. Your reserved and mysterious nature isn't something to overcome. It's a distinctive quality that sets you apart in a world of noise and constant self-promotion. By embracing this aspect of your introverted personality and employing it intentionally, you transform what might be perceived as a limitation into one of your most powerful assets. As we've explored these 4 core principles of dark confidence, confidence spillover, authentic self-expression, managing intrusive thoughts, and leveraging your reserved nature, you've hopefully begun to see how your introverted qualities can be transformed into sources of genuine confidence. The common thread running through all these principles is authenticity, not trying to become someone else, but becoming more powerfully yourself. In our final sections, we'll explore how to apply these principles in specific situations and establish daily practices that reinforce your dark confidence over time. But for now, I want you to reflect on how these principles might already be at work in your life, and where you see the greatest potential for developing this uniquely introverted form of confidence. Now that we've explored the core principles of dark confidence, let's bring these concepts into your everyday life with practical applications. Understanding these principles intellectually is only the first step. The real transformation happens when you consistently apply them in specific situations and make them part of your daily routine. Let's examine some common scenarios where introverts typically struggle with confidence and how you can apply dark confidence principles to navigate them effectively. Team meetings. Rather than forcing yourself to speak up repeatedly throughout a meeting, prepare 1 or 2 thoughtful contributions in advance. When you do speak, use your natural tendency for deep analysis to offer an insight that others might have missed. Remember that your value isn't measured by how often you speak, but by the quality of what you contribute. Networking events. Instead of trying to collect as many business cards as possible, the extroverted approach, set a goal of having 3 meaningful conversations. Use your observational skills to identify people who might appreciate deeper discussion, perhaps those standing alone or on the periphery. When you do engage, Ask thoughtful questions and listen deeply. Your natural attentiveness will be remembered far more positively than any rehearsed elevator pitch. Job interviews. Rather than trying to project an outgoing persona, lean into your authentic strengths as an introvert. When asked about your qualities, highlight your analytical abilities, thoughtful decision-making, and capacity for deep focus. Share examples of how your reserved nature has allowed you to notice details or solve problems that others missed. Interviewers value authenticity, and they're more likely to remember a candidate who stands out by being genuinely themselves. Group gatherings. Instead of exhausting yourself by trying to engage with everyone, choose quality interactions over quantity. Find one person or small group where you can have a more meaningful conversation. Remember that your reserved nature creates intrigue. You don't need to share everything about yourself at once. Be comfortable with selective sharing while showing genuine interest in others. One-on-one interactions. This is where introverts often shine naturally. Rather than worrying about keeping the conversation going, focus on asking thoughtful questions and practicing active listening. Your natural ability to go deep rather than broad in conversation creates connections that last longer than superficial charm. Digital communication. Written communication often plays to introvert strengths, as it allows time for thoughtful composition. Whether in emails, text messages, or social media, embrace your tendency toward depth and nuance. Your well-considered words will stand out in a world of hasty responses and reflexive reactions. Transforming your relationship with your introverted nature doesn't happen overnight. It requires consistent practice and reinforcement. Here's a simple daily routine to build your dark confidence systematically. Morning reflection. 5 to 10 minutes begin each day by acknowledging your introverted strengths. Rather than starting with social media or external validation, take a few minutes to connect with yourself. Consider writing in a journal about one aspect of your introversion that you'll embrace as a strength today. Midday confidence spillover. 15 to 30 minutes dedicate time each day to developing a skill or pursuing an interest where your introverted qualities are advantages. This could be writing, reading, playing an instrument, strategic gaming, coding, artistic creation, or any activity that puts you in a flow state. This daily practice builds a reservoir of confidence that will spill over into other areas. Intentional social engagement, variable timing each day. Challenge yourself to one small act of authentic social engagement. This might be sharing a thoughtful perspective in a meeting, reaching out to someone you admire professionally, or initiating a meaningful conversation. The key is making this engagement align with your authentic self rather than forcing an extroverted approach. Evening integration, 5 to 10 minutes before bed. Reflect on moments during the day when you embraced your introverted nature confidently. Also note instances where you reverted to old patterns of self-doubt or tried to force extroverted behaviors. Don't judge yourself harshly for these moments. Simply acknowledge them as opportunities for growth tomorrow. Despite your best efforts, you'll face challenges in developing and maintaining dark confidence. Let's address some common obstacles and how to overcome them. Temporary setbacks. There will be days when intrusive thoughts seem louder, when social situations feel overwhelming, or when you slip back into viewing your introversion as a liability. These setbacks are normal and don't negate your progress. Remember that confidence is built through consistency, not perfection. When you have a difficult day, gently return to your daily practice rather than abandoning it altogether. Environmental pressure. You may work or live in environments that explicitly or implicitly value extroverted behaviors. In these situations, it's important to find a balance between strategic adaptation and authentic self-expression. Identify the minimum adaptations necessary to function effectively in these environments while preserving your core introverted strengths. Also, seek out spaces and relationships where natural tendencies are appreciated. Mistaking introversion for social anxiety. While introversion and social anxiety can coexist, they're distinct phenomena. If you find that fear, rather than preference, is limiting your social engagement, consider whether you're dealing with anxiety that might benefit from additional support. Dark confidence embraces introversion, but doesn't use it as a shield to avoid growth or necessary social interaction. Maintaining authenticity under pressure. In high-pressure situations, it's easy to revert to people-pleasing or performative confidence. Develop a quick centering practice, like taking 3 deep breaths while reminding yourself of your intrinsic worth, that you can use in these moments to reconnect with your authentic self. The journey to dark confidence isn't a straight line. It's a practice that deepens over time as you become increasingly comfortable with your introverted nature. The goal isn't to reach some final state of perfect confidence, but to engage in an ongoing process of self-discovery and authentic self-expression. As you apply these principles in everyday situations, you'll gradually notice a shift. Interactions that once drained you might begin to energize you because you're engaging authentically rather than performatively. Opportunities that seemed beyond reach might become accessible because you're approaching them from your strengths rather than compensating for perceived weaknesses. Most importantly, you'll experience the profound freedom that comes from aligning your outer expression with your inner nature, from embracing the quiet power that has been within you all along. In our final section, we'll summarize the core principles of dark confidence and leave you with inspiration for your continued journey toward authentic introverted confidence. Throughout this exploration of dark confidence, we've challenged the conventional wisdom about what it means to be confident as an introvert. We've uncovered a path to confidence that doesn't require you to become more extroverted, but instead invites you to embrace and leverage your natural introverted strengths. Let's take a moment to summarize the core principles that form the foundation of dark confidence. Reframing introversion. We began by challenging the common misconceptions about introverted personalities. Your introversion isn't a limitation to overcome. It's a powerful foundation for a different kind of confidence. The capacity for deep analysis, emotional intelligence, and keen observation aren't just random traits. They're intrinsic strengths that give you unique advantages in a world that often values surface over substance. True confidence versus performance. We distinguished between cockiness, which depends on external validation, and genuine confidence, which comes from within. The difference between walking like a king and walking like you don't care who is the king isn't just semantic. It represents fundamentally different relationships with yourself and the world. True confidence for an introvert means knowing your worth without needing to broadcast it. Confidence spillover. We explored how developing mastery in areas aligned with your natural strengths creates confidence that flows into other domains of your life. By focusing on activities where introversion is an advantage rather than a hindrance, you build a reservoir of authentic confidence that transforms how you see yourself and how you engage with challenges. Authentic self-expression. We discover the magnetic power of being unapologetically yourself, rather than exhausting yourself by pretending to be more extroverted. Embracing your authentic nature conserves your energy and creates more meaningful connections. By expressing yourself genuinely, you attract the right people and opportunities into your life. Managing intrusive thoughts. We address the challenge of self-doubt and develop strategies for taking action despite intrusive thoughts. By starting small, using realistic affirmations, practicing consistently, and visualizing success, you can break free from the paralysis of overthinking and prove to yourself that you're capable of more than your doubts suggest. Leveraging your reserved nature. Finally, we reframed your naturally reserved quality as a strategic advantage rather than a weakness. By focusing on quality over quantity, developing active listening skills, practicing selective sharing, and using powerful nonverbal communication, you transform what might be perceived as shyness into magnetic mystery. The unifying thread through all these principles is authenticity, not trying to become someone else, but becoming more powerfully yourself. This is the essence of dark confidence for introverts. The world needs what introverts naturally bring to the table. In a culture of noise and constant self-promotion, your thoughtfulness, depth, and measured expression stand out not as deficiencies, but as rare and valuable qualities. Your ability to listen before speaking, to observe before acting, to reflect before deciding. These aren't weaknesses to overcome, but strengths to embrace. Consider for a moment the introverts who have changed our world. Albert Einstein, whose quiet contemplation revolutionized physics. Rosa Parks, whose reserved strength sparked a movement. Abraham Lincoln, whose thoughtful leadership guided a nation through its darkest hour. J.K. Rowling, whose rich inner world created literary magic. These individuals didn't succeed despite their introversion. They succeeded because of it. They each found a way to harness their quiet power and express it authentically. You possess this same potential. The very qualities that may have made you feel out of place in an extrovert ideal society are the qualities that, when embraced and developed, can become your greatest assets. Your introversion isn't something to fix, it's something to fulfill. So I invite you now to make a commitment to yourself. Instead of fighting against your natural tendencies, choose to embrace them. Instead of measuring yourself against extroverted standards, define success on your own terms. Instead of trying to be more of what you're not, become more of what you already are. Start today. Begin with one small step. Perhaps a morning reflection acknowledging your introverted strengths, or 15 minutes developing a skill that plays to your natural abilities, or a single authentic interaction that honors your preferred communication style. Remember that dark confidence isn't built through dramatic transformations, but through consistent small choices that align with your true nature. As you continue this journey, be patient with yourself. There will be moments of doubt, days when old patterns reassert themselves, situations where you feel pressured to perform extroversion. In these moments, gently return to the principles we've explored. Remind yourself that true confidence comes from within, that your quiet nature is a strength, that you don't need to speak the loudest to have the greatest impact. The path of dark confidence isn't about reaching some final destination of perfect self-assurance. It's an ongoing practice of authentic self-expression and growth. Each day offers new opportunities to deepen your relationship with your introverted nature and to share its gifts with the world. The quiet revolution begins with you, with your decision to stop apologizing for who you are and start celebrating it instead. Your introversion isn't a limitation. It's your unique form of power. It's time to embrace it, develop it, and share it with a world that needs your distinctive voice. The journey to dark confidence starts now, not with becoming someone new, but with fully becoming who you already are. Your quiet strength has always been within you. Now is the time to let it shine.